Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and we have the great privilege today to be with Kevin Annett, who is the Field Secretary for North America for the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi again, Alfred.
Well, it's been a very active week for the ITCCS and the International Common Law Court. Could you bring us up to date on this latest action in Europe, which seems to be unprecedented in terms of uh, your evidence, the ITCCS evidence being actually enforced?
Well, it's really following up on the first step we took in Montreal. If you remember, on August 15th, we actually had the support of the Montreal police in stopping one of these rituals of the Ninth Circle sacrificial cult. Based on that, a number of the European police agencies that we'd been in communication with were encouraged and, in fact, acted on some of the information we'd been giving them for a number of months, really. To give you an example of that, if people notice from that news story, there's over 1,000 arrests that have been made by Interpol and by police agencies in Europe, and with the Americans helping as well. One example they gave is that there were 30 children from Romania who were released from prisons where they're being held in the being trafficked. Now, those 30 children, in fact, are not just Romanians. They didn't get their story quite right. There are Portuguese and Romanian children, because the two main conduits for children in the within Belgium and Holland, besides children they obtain within the country, are coming from Portugal and Romania. That's like with indigenous people. These children from these more third world-like countries can disappear, and they're never traced. And so that was one of the pieces of information that they did act on. And of course, the criminal syndicate involved, of course, is Ndrangheta, which we proved has been provided children for these sacrificial rituals of the Ninth Circle in Belgium and Holland. More recently, Anne-Marie van Bellenberg's statement about that, describes some of that.
So what do you think would have been the fate of these 30 children had they not been rescued?
Well, they would be awaiting rape or execution as we speak. They might have all been dead by now, for all we know. These arrests happened over the last week. We found that once children are grabbed, they're killed very quickly. They're not held for a long time because they realize the chance of detection increases the longer you hold the children. We found that from the point at which children are abducted to their rape, torture, and murder is often no longer than 48 hours. So definitely we saved the lives of those children. Not only that, we sent out a signal, and we saw a response in the Vatican to that. You notice also in the news this Cardinal Wesolowski has detained in the Vatican under so-called house arrest. This Wesolowski was a very major diplomatic figure in the Vatican. He was a friend, a fellow Pole of Karol Wojtyła, Pope John Paul II, who we know is deeply involved with Ndrangheta and the Vatican bank scandal. This Wesolowski was caught molesting children as papal nuncio in the Dominican Republic. He was one of the ones slated to be arrested because as the Ndrangheta network is being exposed, we find that in other third world areas like the Caribbean and South America, children are being trafficked in the same way through these Catholic pipelines. And Wesolowski was part of that. Now, the Vatican are claiming he's being arrested and defrocked. That's not true. They've simply put him under protective custody like they have Joseph Ratzinger in the Vatican. Can't be arrested and tried by Interpol, as is happening now. Now, that's also not just to save him, but to restate what the Pope Francis said recently, and that was that we are not going to follow the laws of other countries. We're going to try our own, which means we're basically going to protect these child rapists, pension them off, and make sure that they're never brought to trial. So in other words, it's a way for the Vatican to say we are the law. We're not going to abide by child protection laws.
Right. So that you see that the evidence seems to point that the Vatican, along with these other monarchies, and along with corporations like Cargill, are part of this worldwide satanic network. Is that what your evidence is finding?
Absolutely, it's part of a whole global system, and we're not only showing the different arms of the octopus, we're showing where the arms lead to the head of the octopus, and now the police are being forced to act on this, police in other countries. So it shows people the power of what we're doing and the power of bringing the truth out. Eventually, it evokes a response from right in the system.
Yeah. Now, it just occurs to me now with the International Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels, as of this month, starting its investigatory phase, that at some point a report, just a comprehensive report like a book or something, not or a document or accompanied maybe by a documentary or something that could be released publicly so that people would know comprehensively what has been unearthed. Is that something that is being planned at all, or?
It's not only being planned; it's being worked on as we speak. I've been asked to contribute. I've been asked to contribute my share of that based on 13 witnesses that I've helped interview, and so I'll be adding my part into the mix. But the plan is to not only have a report, but yes, a documentary film based on this, because the evidence is so wide. I mean, to give you an example, the areas that they found children are coming out of are third world countries, youth detention centers within, quote, first world countries, Indian reservations, and Catholic orphanages. Those are the main areas. Now, what this report is going to show in detail, how all the different arms, like, for example, the Indian residential school stuff that I first uncovered, that's one aspect of this as well. We know that Cargill, which you mentioned, the large food company in America, they have, according to eyewitnesses, been heavily involved in abducting children off Indian reservations. Several of the reservations include the Gila Reserve in southwestern America, among the Navajo and there's another tribe I'll remember in that part of the country. The Cree Indians of Canada figure largely in a reservoir of children who are used all the time in these rituals. These sacrificial rituals have even occurred in the basement of the Cargill corporate headquarters in Wayzata, Minnesota. And so part of this report is designed to take people to the next step, which is we are, for example, working with people in Minneapolis and some of the common law sheriffs there to set up a task force to start putting Cargill on trial. And there'll be arrest warrants issued against Cargill corporate executives. Now, this is big time. This is one of the largest corporations in the world. And talk about a David and Goliath battle. It's like taking on the Vatican, but I mean, it's also showing the money route. We have to show where the money is behind this child trafficking, and how banks like HSBC and Bank of America are deeply involved in laundering money of Ndrangheta and other criminal bodies doing the child and drug trafficking.
Yeah, and just looking at the corporate profile of Cargill, number one, they have the largest revenue of any privately owned corporation in North America, larger than the Ford Motor Company, and also because they're heavily involved in agricultural industries, they routinely violate the child labor laws, so that they violate child labor laws, and then they apparently must use those child labor networks that they exploit for labor, then also for their satanic ritual practices.
That's very accurate. We found that time and again, the money behind a lot of these practices are coming out of two general areas: the resource sector, companies that are involved in, say, mining, water, oil, uranium, and also food. So when you think about it, the control of the resources, water, and the food is key to controlling the world's population. And this is one of the reasons, the bigger reason behind why Native people can attack so much, because they're on those resources. And eyewitnesses have described how the government of Canada and the United States work hand in glove with these companies and satanic networks to terrorize the natives, by taking their children and trafficking them and killing them, for terrorizing the natives to give up their land. Now, historically, this is how genocide is operated. It's carrying on in the ways we're describing.
Yeah, and we have also heard just anecdotal evidence, and actually read it. Well, there's a lot of evidence regarding another corporation, Monsanto, which is another food industry, another food industry corporation, and as well, as you stated, the U.S. Department of Agriculture that has been involved in these areas also, in terms of mind control. So this seems that now, for example, we were listening yesterday to a mainstream media here in Canada, the CBC, and they were reporting the case of the Archbishop in Rome from the perspective, they were saying that the reason why he was detained inside the Vatican was, as you stated, for damage control. And so even the mainstream media now is reporting, what appears to be a realistic perspective. What comment do you have on that, or what's your view of that?
Well, it shows that they can't deny the truth anymore, because they realized if they perpetrated the Vatican line, which is, oh no, we're going to reprimand this man, they'll look ridiculous, because it'll come out very quickly that he hasn't been reprimanded any more than Joseph Ratzinger has been. So it's simply because they realize the tide has turned on this stuff, and they have to acknowledge the truth in some aspects. But it also shows, like, for years in Canada, I had a complete wall of indifference. Now the government's admitted that tens of thousands of children have died. It's part of the same process where the system has to continue to co-opt the truth so they can not appear illegitimate. So yeah, of course they have to do the song and dance. It doesn't take away from the fact that the Vatican is still getting away with crimes against humanity and protecting their own. And it comes down to the people waking up and realizing that now we have to act through our own common law courts and sheriffs to stop these people, to perform the citizen arrests. And we show that once we do that, the police in other countries realize, well, we got to get our own act together here, otherwise we're going to get outflanked by the people themselves. So I think we have to keep pushing that whole common law court effort.
Right. So where do you go from here? You're now in a kind of a staging area in the U.S., but what's your perspective from here?
Well, there's two things that have happened. As people know, my brake lines were cut when I was in Canada last week. Also, there was a physical attack on our group while we were in New England a few days ago.
Could you talk about that? We didn't hear about that one.
Right. Well, we don't generally publicize too much of this stuff because, frankly, it's designed to get people scared. And it's kind of on a need-to-know basis. We don't like to. But since, if it's okay now to mention this, there was a group of about 4 or 5 men who swarmed the group I was with, attacked us, tried to grab laptops, nothing else, working us up. Now, that was, obvious intimidation. You don't get, if someone's trying to mug you, they don't come in a group, right, in the way it happened. And it was in New England. And it was interesting because it was just before we were making plans to go and speak we had been invited to come to Philadelphia, to the main Amnesty International group in Philadelphia, which has a lot of pull. They're tied to government circles in America. Yeah. And they hit us just before we were to do that. Now, we've rescheduled with Philadelphia. It was decided to wait after that. In a couple of weeks, I'm scheduled to come to Europe to meet with the police in Brussels and other places to further these investigations. I have a speaking. There's about a half a dozen cities in Germany where I'm come to speak. Also in several other countries, as we talked about before. So I'll be doing that during October, and then of course coming back over the water again.
Yeah. Now, could I ask you this? And it's a very sensitive area because, as you know, the police in Brussels and perhaps in other areas of Belgium have also been repressive on supporters of the ITCCS, like uh, Laurent Louis, the former MP, who, when he came out in support of the ITCCS, was actually uh, brought to trial and threatened with a large fine
Yep.
and with incarceration and effectively neutralized as a politician, even though legally speaking he was protected by parliamentary immunity. So the police are kind of caught in between. They're in a very satanic, pedophilic monarchy there in Brussels that responds directly to the Vatican, the Belgian monarchy, and the Belgian government. And so the police get these orders from above to do that. And here they're now, as you stated in Montreal, that the police were kind of evenly split between the people who cooperate with the Satanists and the people who see the light. And I wondered if you could comment on that aspect of it as you prepare to meet with police in Brussels, how you see that evolving and whether your meeting with them is going to mean that they will lighten up a bit on those of your supporters who have been there in Brussels suffering a great deal.
Well, frankly, we're in a situation of civil war in that people are forced within the system to choose now. And they know it, and it's caused a real shakeup in the system with the churches, with everywhere. And we're there to catalyze that process.
Yeah.
Like a free radical in chemistry does
Yeah.
that. It speeds up the process. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
The purpose of the stand down orders, these orders to the agents of the Crown and the Vatican to stand down, take an oath of allegiance to the people, not to these corporate fictitious entities. That's happening more and more, and that's why we're facing these attacks, because they're trying to stop this. They know if this reaches a critical mass, their whole system comes down, which of course is the whole purpose of this, from my end. But what we find we have to do is find those honest people in the system and strengthen, not by telling them to go in the system and try to, get it to act right, because we know at the highest level of these systems, it's being run by Satanists and child murder.
Yeah.
We say it's time to act independently, use the information in your authority, and act under a new allegiance. And that was part of the rationale of establishing the Republic of Ndrangheta, and now moving in England to establish a republic. We need a political framework in which to operate now for this and to switch allegiance. And so more and more, this is what we're initiating.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to ask you a question that to some people may seem very abstract and abstruse. And granted, it comes from a certain perspective, and that is there is one perspective. It comes from a certain avenue of spiritual information, and that says that the actual entities of Lucifer and Satan that are, quote, fallen angels have actually already been adjudged by divine whatever, and that they remain unrepentant, and that they've actually been disempowered, and they're, if not already, may have already been terminated as souls. I mean, it's a process that took a long time, took about 500,000 years of our time. And so there really is no more Satan, and there really is no more Lucifer as far as high up. There are a lot of little demons and very confused people in the afterlife. and a lot of confused people on the ground here, but that basically the forces of light and of God have, the battle in heaven has been won, and we're now mopping up on earth. Is that something that you've heard, or that you resonate with at all, or?
Well, you know, Alfred, ever since I was a minister over 20 years ago in Port Alberni, I've known kind of in my heart and soul that what you're saying does resonate with what I experience in life. The most personal example I have of that is the fact that I'm still walking around. And, you know, I wouldn't be walking around if that dark entity was on the ascendant. The point is that, yes, in many ways, in a spiritual sense, we've already won. It is very much a mopping up operation. Nevertheless, we can't sit on our laurels, because when a system like that and when an entity like that is on the way out, it tends to become very vicious, even more so. And it tends to, the people who are being kind of, it's like a symbiotic relationship when people are possessed by this entity. They identify with it. So the people who are caught up in the system are even more entrenched nowadays, right? They're even more committed to the lie and to the destruction because they're lost. They're lost souls. They're part of something that's lost and going down. So that's why, you know, a lot of the work we do from the very beginning has got to be spiritually grounded. And by that, I don't mean in a denominational sense, you know, my interpretation over yours. More like what the common law is. It's the common sense, the common spiritual sense we all have of what is true and just and right. And that manifests in many different ways for people. But the core of it, you know, our hearts, it's the same matter who we are. We're for life. We're the protection of life and children and truth. And that spirit given to all by God and the universe. And so, I would agree generally. My problem is that I'm often so much on the front line, I see a lot of the evidence to the contrary. You know, it's hard to believe some days that we've won when you look at the horrible impact it's still having. But I think we have to always get back up on the hill, which any commander does, sees the whole battle rather than just the nuts and bolts down in the front, which can mislead us. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of hope that should activate people, should make them step back and be complacent.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that in a couple of weeks or so you'll be going to Europe. You'll be going to Brussels, having your meetings there, and then on to various other countries, um, uh, especially Germany. What do you see coming out of this trip?
Well, you see, Germany is very key right now because it has to do not only with one of the places a lot of the Vatican money is going, but a lot of this evidence linking Ratzinger to the Ninth Circle, to the SS Knights of Darkness, it's in Germany, it's in Munich. I'll be meeting with people to try to gather that, and from there going to Italy again. We've had another invitation from groups in Italy to come down to Rome, and I think this is a very key time to be doing that, to be holding more ceremonies, more actions right at the Vatican itself. It's all being planned for October and beyond. So, you know, as part of that whole process, it's shifted to a much higher level now. And, you know, it's just very gratifying.
Very good. Sorry. Do you have any other points that you'd like to make for our viewers? Any other issues that you'd like to bring up?
That's the latest thing that I'm able to share right now. It has been frustrating for groups on the ground because I've had to change my plans recently, just out of a point of view of staying effective and avoiding very serious, you know, attempts to stop work and to stop me. But the thing to understand now is that people need to act now on what they've been given. The convention to establish the Republic in Kannata has been moved to January because there's been such a level of interest. They haven't had the ability to organize in time. It was for the end of October originally.
Right.
So January, it's scheduled now for January 1st to 4th in Winnipeg.
Right.
we now have over 30 groups working in Canada around this.
Right.
Similarly, in England, they're planning to hold a convention on May 1st, 2015. There's even more interest in England, to do that, to disestablish the crown finally. So these are actions I'll all be helping with. And like I say, it's especially now a time to stay inwardly clear, because we're at such a critical moment right now.
Right. And well, I think that we've more or less come to the end of this segment. Do you have any final words that you'd like to leave with our viewers?
Yes, I would say that this is a time to become personally very grounded in your own soul, in Mother Earth, and in the simple realization that despite the fact that we're in the ascendancy here now, children are being killed as we speak, and we can never lose sight of that fact. We have to shut down these institutions doing it. We're going after Cargill Corporation and all the big money behind the child trafficking in the Ninth Circle. We need your help. Write to us, ITCCS Central at gmail.com, itccs.org, and I will be in touch again soon about the European leg and what we're planning in Minneapolis about this Cargill takedown that we're organizing.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for taking time out today from your schedule and to be with us. And we look forward to your coming on again as events develop.
Thank you, Alfred. I look forward to it. There is one final thing I wanted to add, a nice little anecdote that happened. I was up in New England. I went to the bridge in Concord, Massachusetts, where in 1705, the farmers there took their first shots at the British Army. Wordsworth called it, "He shot heard around the world." And it was amazing standing on that bridge with those spirits. These were ordinary men and women who realized that, this was their land and these British were trying to take it from them. And out of that sense of freedom, they shot. And that fire shot that was heard around the world is like what we've done. We've taken the pot shot right at the source of this evil, and now it's up to others to carry on that revolution. And this is, I was just inspired to be there, and it was a real joy to do that. So I'm just grateful to have been there that week, and I hope that inspires. I know it'll inspire me. I hope it inspires others to realize that it's in our hands now, each one of us.
Well, thank you very much for that insight, which indeed is profound, because it was the UK crown that was the issue then, and it is the UK crown and all the emoluments around it, the Vatican and all the black monarchies of Europe and this corporate structure that the ITCCS has brought to light. So again, we have to commend you and the common law court system on its work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfred. Just show people the final image that I got in Concord. It's the first flag of the American Revolution, actually. Don't tread on me. This is the flag that flew at Bunker Hill. It flew at Concord, Massachusetts before the American flag, so I like to wear it around now all the time.
Oh, good.
Kind of sums up our spirit and our intent.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfred.
Okay.